You know what FNAF is, we're not explaining that. But let's explain something else instead. FNAF's progression as a game series. All the way back in 2014, FNAF was and still is the king of horror games, having over a decade's worth of games at its roster, and with its newest installment being released not even a week ago as this is being written. There have been over, holy shit, 30 fucking games? And I've played a grand total of 0, minus 1 fan game. But I don't live under a rock, so I, like many others, despite not having played the games, have seen lots and lots of gameplay for all of these games, and how the series has changed over time. So that's more or less the point of the video today. How did we go from this, all the way to this? Subscribe to me so I can get 1,000 subscribers. I've been good, I swear. I'll try to be brief when talking about the original sequel since the gameplay is mostly the same. And no better way to start things off than to go back to the very first game in the series, Five Nights at Freddy's. Happy late birthday, Kiryu. So while everyone and their mothers know what the gameplay is like in FNAF, it's still worth mentioning all the details, especially for later entries when things get added or removed. Is it controversial of me to say FNAF 1 has pretty basic horror? Well, sometimes simple is good, because everything you see is what there is. You have a limit to the power available, you can check where the animatronics are via the camera, and once any get too close, you shut the door to keep them out. Repeat for 5 days and you beat the game. We already know the way the game works, so there's no point in trying to drag it out. What I can drag out, however, is the fact that unlike most other kinds of horror games, movement is not an option. This room is all you have. Every other horror game, you're constantly moving around trying to run or hide from the monsters, but FNAF popularized this form of gameplay where you're completely immobile, though this form of horror would not stay forever. But we'll get there when we get there. FNAF 2, 3, and 4 would also keep these same mechanics with some small tweaking like the mask and marionette box in FNAF 2, or restarting different systems in FNAF 3 with Springtrap being the only real threat that can kill you, and any other jump scares just for show and to block off your systems. As for FNAF 4, Freddy's on the bed. The real change here comes from the 5th, I think, main entry in the series, Sister Location. This game has more in common than not with the first 4 games, but it also expands the gameplay further than the others did, because while the others may have had mini games between the nights to add spice and expand the lore, Sister Location added a lot more to the gameplay rather than just the same light and camera management, which is still there, just not the main focus. Easily the first thought that comes to mind when thinking about the alternative gameplay in Sister Location are the Ballora sections. From either crawling through her room to avoid her or the spring lock suit section that had to be updated because it was too fucking hard to beat. There's a good number of moments like that in the game. One could even say it's progression. I don't think I'll mention Ultimate Custom Night, mainly due to the fact that it's got a lot behind it, but it's also, it gets pretty messy. This is where things get interesting. It's around this time Scott himself stopped being the sole creator for the games, with Help Wanted being the first game in the series to massively shift directions from the previous games being playable in VR, and being similar to a Sister Location where the gameplay shifts far more than just sitting behind a desk until you get ass blasted by Freddy. I don't plan on dawdling too long on this because the next game is what changed everything for the series. For the first time in the entire Five Nights at Freddy's series so far, this is the very first time you're able to freely move around the pizzeria, and it's further than just that. Security Breach also leans far deeper into the survival horror aspect with stealth and chases added to the mix, and also being torso-vored by Freddy Fazbear. Hell, there's even boss fights in the game. Name a single time where you thought when playing any FNAF game that you'd have to square up with fucking Springtrap. Running drains your stamina, not to mention you have to manage Freddy's battery charge, otherwise you're as vulnerable as can be. Now, as different as this game is, the question is, was it good? I don't know, I never played it. As far as I can tell from fan reception, the game has mixed opinions on it, and part of that comes from the fact that the game was poorly optimized and especially a buggy mess. So when it comes to FNAF's first time ever expanding to a new horizon of gameplay, it dropped the ball. Take some lessons from the real mascot king FNAF. Oh man, I haven't made a third video on this in months. Help Wanted got a sequel, and look, I'm on a tight schedule and I'm skimming through this game I've never played, so let's just get this over with, okay? Now we have 2 games left, and these 2 are very much worth mentioning. Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit is probably the most unique approach FNAF will ever have, and for a lot of damn reasons, but let's just go over all the big ones. Firstly, it's the first game to have a super unique art style of retro-themed pixel animation that looks insanely crispy, might I add, but it's also the only game in the series to have this unique mechanic of traveling to the past to see an alternate version of the pizzeria. Plus, it's got pretty in-depth mechanics last I saw, with escaping the house each night from the fake version of your dad that no one else seems to notice is rotting away and not speaking. Good game. Now we're here for the finale. The newest FNAF game that was released June 13th, 2025. You know it. You probably love it. I'm talking about... Now, given this is the newest game, I'll actually take my time with this as opposed to just repeating the same details of Security Breach, because surprise surprise, you can move around, holy shit. I actually took the time to sit down and look at things here just for you, aka I watched Markiplier, aka Get me to 1,000 subscribers. Like Security Breach, this game lets you walk around and obviously you're able to interact with stuff, solve some movement puzzles, and all of the other basic stuff you'd expect. To access higher tier doors, your little gadget here can upgrade to unlock higher tiers in really easy mini games, it looks like, and jerking it with generators. Now this might be extremely controversial of me, but the chases in this game are kind of mediocre. I understand I'm watching and not playing myself, but a lot of these chases don't really seem to match the quality I'd expect from one of the biggest gaming franchises of all time. This will be me digging my own grave here because I want to compare the chase with the literal poster child of the game to Poppy Playtime. Besides applauding the length of the chase, I can't help but feel as though the final run-in with Mommy Longlegs in Poppy Playtime is miles better. Not necessarily because it's just visually appealing, but the entire chase, you're utilizing every bit of movement available, and if you fuck up just once, it's lights out, while also being pretty damn terrifying. Meanwhile, the chase with Jackie is kinda just alright? I mean, there are expectations to have when this animatronic is the poster child for the game, but, and this goes for most of the other chases in the game too, they kind of just resort to falling, fading to black, miraculously survive, but the animatronic is dead and repeats. Hell, you don't even get to see a body or anything for Jackie, it just disappears and doesn't come back. There's also voice acting for the main character, but it feels wasted to even have because he speaks so rarely, to then just be mute until his next line of dialogue, instead of feeling like a real character being terrified of the position he's in. You could remove all of his lines entirely and the game wouldn't feel much different at all, especially when you consider that even Gregory from Security Breach handled being an existing character far better than Arnold. This isn't me trying to proclaim, oh, this game is awful, don't buy it. No. This is me pointing out flaws in a game that otherwise seems enjoyable. Like other games in the series, there's multiple endings, so there is replayability for an otherwise short horror game, and I wouldn't even bother trying to learn the story for this game. I'm purely here for how it is to pick up and play blindly. Hell, I'm not telling you play the game or not. This is just the echo chamber of a small YouTuber who probably won't even break 100 views again. Oh right, we're supposed to talk about the gameplay for the series. So that's the gist of each and every single Five Nights at Freddy's core gameplay explored and analyzed. The series expanded a lot from sitting in a single room with a camera and some buttons to being wildly chased around the factory by animatronics that are way too fast for the time period. It's not hard to imagine why Fnaf would grow beyond the confines of a single room to join the ranks of other survival horror games, to feel the true fear of hiding and being chased by the giant animatronics we used to close those giant metal doors on. My final thoughts? Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 is better.